Yep. No, that's
How was
good.
breeding season?
Oh, we're still going for the next 3 weeks, but it's going good. We go from 1st of February to 1st of July.
How many mares do y'all usually fall out actually there?
So obviously we pull all of ours out. That's about 100, 110. And
Wow.
then for clients, probably between 50 and 75. Um, when we used to do racehorses, we fold out more than that. We probably fold out 150 or 200 just for clients, like when I first came to the ranch. But it seemed like the most, ranchers and or the people that are doing like cutting, working cow horse, a lot of them have their own, place to full out. So not fulling out as many, but still pretty decent number anyway.
Y'all probably stay pretty busy.
Oh yeah.
On the stallion side, when did the sixes start standing stallions to the public?
Uh, in 1993 was the first time that we offered stallions to the public. Dr. Blodgett came to the ranch in 1982,
Hmm.
and that was one of the things Miss Ann kind of tasked him with was establishing a commercial breeding program. Initially for the sixes, but then to with the plan to take it to the public. So, pretty early on there, they went public. So.
I think it's really cool right now as far as the studs y'all have. I feel like there's a lot of versatility. You have reining, cutting, some on the roping side.
Mhm.
And I can imagine it can be pretty hard to kind of weed out what's a fit for the sixes. Y'all are looking for versatile horses that are athletic. So when it comes to assessing whether a stud is a good fit for the sixes, it's a very elite set of studs. How do you go about that?
So the simple answer
Mm-hmm.
is one of the things that we do different than a lot of other places is one aspect of us is we're a ranch, we have our own horse program, and there's that aspect of it, and we have a handful of our own stallions. Another aspect of it is we're a full functioning vet clinic, but
Yeah.
then we're also a breeding farm. But one of the things that's different about us versus a lot of other breeding farms is one of the deals that we make with the stallion owners is that we want to be able to breed 5 of our mares a year to their stallion. So the short answer to that is, would I want to breed one of my mares to the stud? And if the answer is yes, then I'll consider, let's look at the stud and let's start talking logistics and business and all the things that go around that. But yes, you're correct. Like versatility is one of the big things. Can that horse go be one of the world's best range horses when bred to our broodmare? Then that's a very important thing. They have to be conformationally correct and produce foals that are conformationally correct. Um, in the performance horse world, they have to have gone and been successful. They
Mm-hmm.
can't just be one hit wonders kind of thing. Uh, we take into account pedigree, we take into account genetic tests, all of those kind of factors. But the short answer is, would I want to breed to them before we would, look at standing a stud here?
You have all these studs, amazing studs at your disposal. How you're making those decisions of what you're breeding the sixes mares to.
Yep. So some of it is, you know, one of my number one goals is to raise range horses for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And so they have to be, you know, very athletic because they have to be able to cut a cow, but yet they have to be big enough to go all day and have enough of a motor that they can go all day, but yet not too hot. That way they're still gentle and good for selling to the public whenever at a remuda sale, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but also, so that's just one aspect of what I'm looking at for there. The other is, we host the return to their muta sale. And so what's kind of some industry people wanting and, so intent there's, in any given year when I'm looking at my crosses and what I'm going to breed which stud to which mare, some of it I take into account. Okay, my kind of whole goal for breeding this is to sell it, not necessarily keep it kind of thing. But then there's some crosses where, on a given mare, I'll intentionally breed to a stud to try to produce, fingers crossed, a filly for, to have for a replacement to keep forever, kind of thing. So, and then sometimes you get a gilding and you're like, oh man, whenever you're breeding for that. But then other times you're hoping for a gilding because you made a cross, specifically for the Cowboys kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Has that been cool over the years as y'all have brought in more? versatile studs and more show horse studs, kind of seeing those crosses with, the ranch side for the cowboys. I bet there's some really athletic kind of freaks coming out of that.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's fun, and like here, actually, the last couple weeks, I've been trying to narrow down my list for what yearling fillies I'm going to put in the Remuda sale, and I'm having a really hard time because I want to keep them all. So, which I guess is supposed to be the point. Whenever you get to where you're like, man, that one looks good. Nope, that one looks good. I'm having a hard time
That's
picking.
what you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, any crosses that come to your mind when you think of like some of your favorite crosses that you've done?
Oh, that's so hard because it's really a whole an art and a science both all combined, and I mean it's so hard to pick because like in this year's yearling filly group, there's a couple that I intentionally had been, thinking about and picking to try to make and get more into the rope horse world. And like those things look like they made. And so I'm super tickled about that. But then I got some that are, intentionally aimed for cutting and then a whole bunch for the Cowboys. And, that I don't know, just, I don't know that I'd say I have a favorite, but just the
Mhm.
whole process of it. I just love seeing it all come together.
And
Um,
it's a long process from
oh yeah.
breeding to actually getting to see them work. So
And two, there's a couple that I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that cross again because I didn't just love it for whatever reason. So, um, and we got a lot of touch points along the way because we get to see them. Obviously we're hands on right when they're born, and as they grow, we'll halter break them, and then we'll get them back up as yearlings, and so we have lots of opportunity to evaluate and see. But you are correct; it is kind of a long process. From the time they've started them and ridden them for a year, say, their 3-year-old year, it's been 4 years since you bred them, but really 4.5 to 5 since you made the decision to make that cross. So sometimes, you know, you don't know that you made a phenomenal cross till 5 years from now, or a bad cross from 5 years till now. So it
that's
is a
very
little
true.
bit of a it is a little bit of a long process.
Yeah, patience sprinkled in there.
Yes.
And I
Yep.
know you just mentioned the sale, and the sale is coming up. For those that you're breeding, primarily focused for the sale, once they're on the ground, what does that kind of look like? Are they kicked out and then they're brought in as yearlings?
Yep. So I mean, really, it's the kind of same process as all of ours. I'll just pick the yearling filly group as a good example. After they get weaned, they got put out on winter wheat, and in groups, and then we had a babysitter with them and stuff, and they were halter broke before they were weaned. All of them, both the keeper fillies and the ones we're going to sell, and then we get them up. Just as soon as we have pen space with breeding season being so busy. So usually around May, and we'll start feeding them and walking through them and getting them gentle and stuff, and then reintroduce the entire group, both the keepers and the sell horses, to another round of halter breaking and like just yesterday they were leading them through the stalks and they were fly spraying them and getting them gentle. And then from there, I finalized my list of fillies, what I'm going to sell. Those will stay up. We'll eventually put them in a stall, start doing the whole traditional sell prepping thing, exercising them, feeding them real good, teaching them to tie, teaching them how to load on a trailer, all those things. That way, when somebody gets them, they're essentially ready to start throwing a saddle on and go, kind of thing. Uh, the keeper fillies, they go from we'll do another round of halter breaking, May, June, and then they'll get kicked out to pasture,
Okay.
and they'll just hang out there until for the next year roughly until their early 2-year-old year, maybe January, February, and then we'll start them and put 30 days on all of them, and then kind of refine the list from there because to see how do they take that process. If there's one that just suddenly shows that she's not willing to learn, we may
Mhm.
weed her out, even though we thought we wanted her as a replacement mare. Um, so that's kind of that process in a nutshell.
You can tell just from being at the cell last year, you can tell the effort and all the intentionality put into the young ones because, like, the speakers and all the noise and everyone moving around, they handle it like so much better than a lot of seasoned horses would.
Yeah.
So you can
Yeah,
tell
those
all
brood
the
mares have been turned out for the last 15 years. They get there and they're like, we are
time.
not
Yeah, they're
done
like,
yet.
what is going on? So back to the stud side a little bit. I think, just from the public standpoint, we kind of forget how demanding breeding season is on the stud side also. We don't really think of it being. Could you talk kind of what the demands of breeding season are on the studs?
Sure, so we'll start cleaning them out and prepping them for breeding season in January. To make sure they're down to, because stallions, not to get too scientific and nerdy, but in their testicles, that's where they produce the semen, and then
Mhm.
it's stored in the epididymis and vas deferens. And so you have to get all that cleaned out because if it's been months since they've been collected, you'll get a accumulation of some dead sperm cells. And so we'll get them cleaned out and ready to go, so that process starts in January, and then we'll start collecting 1st of February. And of course, it kind of, somewhat starts off slow and gets busier, busier, busier. But we'll go all the way till the 1st of July. So essentially for 7 months, they're getting collected every other day. Which it is taxing on them and takes a lot of energy. And then especially here towards the end, in Texas, you combine that with it's hot now, and so that adds another factor to it. But we're real intentional at trying to keep them in shape because you don't want fat, you want fit, for metabolic reasons and all the things. And so our stallion managers at both locations are really good about making sure they're getting exercised on the non-breeding days, getting turnout time, all that sort of thing. But it is still very demanding on them, and you could tell they're exhausted by the end of breeding season. And then we'll give them a couple months off, and depending on the stallions, depending on how much frozen semen we consumed and or need, we'll start collecting them just as soon as we start seeing a slight cool off, which usually doesn't happen until September. So they really get July and August off, and then a lot of them will freeze them through the fall. And some of them you only have to freeze them for a month. Some of them you have to freeze them for 2 or 3 months. It's kind of very stallion and case dependent.
Hmm.
But potentially some of the studs are going 10 months out of the year. Um, and you have to take into account, a lot of them have had a real intense show career. So sometimes they have some low grade arthritis. And of course, we all get old and achy and stuff. So uh, we do a lot of things to help with that. So, for example, we keep them on the 4/6 joint supplement, um, depending on the stallion, and if they just if they really don't have any issues, we just keep them on that supplement for maintenance. If they do have some issues, some low grade arthritis in the hocks or the stifles, for example, depending on the stud, sometimes we'll do joint injections prior to breeding season to really target those joints. Some of them will do injectable supplements, Adequan, Zycosan, those kind of things, to kind of help with the synovial, um, health if they need more than the above and beyond oral supplements. Um, Pretty well all of our stallions, we do keep on the complete gut health, the sixes supplement, because of the stress related to the intensity of breeding season and stuff. And again, you know, like you how you ask, it is really tough on them. One example to kind of highlight that are the stallions at our new facility at 4/6 Granbury. We have an in-ground underwater treadmill. During breeding season, we swim them 2 days a week to help keep them in shape. Uh, but if we did more than that, I think they would just be exhausted, and it would start to affect the breeding day and them wanting to collect. So during breeding season, we only swim them 2 days a week. During the off season, we bump it up to 3 or 4 days a week, kind of depending on the stallion and how much energy they have. But it is an exhausting process for the.
I know y'all have amazing stud barn managers. Have to have it really dialed in to the routine and program because, like you said, you don't want those fat stallions that are out of shape. You don't want to over exhaust them because they're already, their body's already under demand. So y'all have it down to the exact point science of what it has to be. So that's really cool.
Yep, yep. And it's and yes, we have a good program, but also you still have to customize it to each
Yeah.
stud because they're so different, such a unique individual variation to that even.
Yeah, and I think, in the industry we like to see these big fat beefy stallions when it's really not best for, their health and all the things that come with that. And so you kind of have to think about it from a health perspective that that's not always best. With talking about how demanding it is, do any of them still show during breeding season?
Oh yeah, we still have a pretty good percentage of our stallions out showing.
Mhm.
Uh, I think actually this past week, we have horses in three different locations. A bunch of our cutters, um, at least three of them, are in Las Vegas at the PCCHA Derby.
Mhm.
Several of our reiners, the NRHA Derby, and then a bunch of our cow horse folks are coming back from Arizona last week. They were out there for the Western Derby, the NRCHA Western Derby in Scottsdale. So at one point, I think we had 10 different stallions out on the road, and so some of that is obviously takes more work both for the stallions because they're out showing, but it's a logistical feat too. To I have a whole network of vets that I know and call up and be like, "Hey, will you be able to collect a stud for us if we need fresh semen? Otherwise, while those stallions are on the road, we'll sometimes switch them to frozen semen to keep the mares covered." Um,
With the new Granbury location, which is beautiful, how did y'all decide which studs are there, which studs are at Guthrie?
sure. So, kind of the intent behind that is one, have a stallion station that is a showcase place, a place where stallion owners can bring mare owners, they can entertain, they can host, that sort of thing. And so we wanted our top end proven stallion battery to be there. But having said that, there's a couple of stallions that deserve to be there. I'll pick on Bet He's a Captain Boone Too Soon. One
Yeah.
we own, one we don't. They're both at the top end of their game. They're both mature, but golly, they've been here at the ranch for the last 15 years or so, both of them, and this is their home. They have a full booking, and so not that they don't deserve to be there, but they're quite comfy here. And to me, we're still top end deal here in Guthrie. Yes, we're in
Yeah.
Guthrie, but and then also the second thing is we wanted a place where, because we do have a lot of up and coming junior stallions that are showing and on the road, just like we talked about, and so wanted a place where when they weren't out on the road, there's just such a central location in the Weatherford Fort Worth area, where most of those trainers are. Then that way we have a central location, that they can come and get collected when they're at home with the trainers.
All repro and actual breeding is only done at Guthrie, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So if someone wants to visit the studs and wants to go to either Guthrie or Granbury, are they open for public visits? Do people make appointment if they want to come see the studs?
Oh, definitely, especially mare owners, that kind of thing. We're all about showing the stallions off. So you can just call our main office number. We switched it over this past year, so we just have a central phone number. It's one of those internet-based deals, and you can reach each location. Because I'm real big on customer service and want to make it easy for the customers. So I just want them to think four sixes.
Yeah.
I know we have two locations now and they're separated by 3 hours and 15 minutes, but I wanted it to be a single thing in everybody's mind. So they can call the one phone number, 806-386-1911, and reach either division. Or if they're calling to order semen, they can either call that one number and then place the order for either location, or they can go to the website and sign up for a contract regardless of location. So the whole process is intended to be seamless.
Yeah.
And for the mare owners that say want us to do their repro work, because obviously that's one of the services we offer, we're only doing the palpating, breeding, preg checks here in Guthrie, but we don't charge. We have a courier go back and forth. We don't charge the mares that are on site a courier fee if the stud happened to be one of the ones that's over there at Granbury. Uh, from their perspective, they're breeding to a 4/6 stud, so they shouldn't have to pay a courier fee. So that's one of the things we offer for people we're doing breeding work with.
Very customer service focused.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to do.
I'm curious. When you were in vet school, was repro this top of mind to you, or was it kind of post graduation and when you got to 4/6s that now it's been such um, a passion project for you.
Yeah. So a little bit of a funny story. I won't take too long telling it, but uh, I've always loved horses. And I started a lot of colts growing up and rode a lot of horses and cowboyed. And honestly, if I wanted to pick, like when I was in high school, I wanted to be a cowboy. But my dad was a pickle factory manager, and I knew I knew I wouldn't, if you don't have family land, being a rancher, cowboy is not necessarily a great living, and so I wasn't fully set on what I wanted to do. I always enjoyed doctoring, like whenever we'd go doctor cattle and that kind of stuff. So I kind of love that stuff. But when I graduated high school, I was homeschooled, and my mom was real big. She wanted me to get a GED, so I went and got my GED at the junior college, and I placed well on that. And so the junior college offered me free 2 years at the junior college. So I went to the junior college for 2 years for free, and stayed home and rode horses and that kind of stuff. And to me, it was one of those, all throughout life, there's different people God placed in my life that were so influential, even prior to that. But at that junior college, I had a science teacher, and he actually was recently retired. He was a chemist, one of the head chemists at Coors in Golden, Colorado, and he wanted to be a science teacher at a local junior college because he loved science, wanted kids to love science. And so I had him in chemistry class, and then he ended up talking me into taking biochemistry, which I mean I wasn't even. I mean, yeah, being a vet was on the radar a little bit. Like if I listed out the five things I might want to be, I'd
Mm-hmm.
list being a vet. Uh, but I took biochemistry with him, and it was me and three other guys in the class. So it was essentially like getting tutored by a doctor who was passionate about it. So I ended up doing okay in that. I think that's one of the things that helped me get into vet school was having that. You know, my brother was going to Colorado State University to be a civil engineer, so I did, and they had a good equine science program. So I went up there. While I was there, I randomly got assigned to Dr. Hurd, who was his equine science director at the time. Ended up making friends with him, and he was friends with Dr. Blodgett. So I got an internship at the ranch here. Um, and this makes me feel old, but that was in 2006. So that was 20 years ago. Uh, and doing that internship down here, one made me fall in love with the sixes, but two made me realize that you could kind of marry veterinary medicine and the cowboy way of life together in an environment like this. And I was like, man, if I could be a vet at a place like this, that would be my dream job. And so then I just kept striving for that ever since, and asked Dr. Blodgett to be my mentor and really hit it hard at school and all that kind of stuff. So to answer your question specifically, once I got to vet school, yes, equine reproduction was top of my mind because I was trying to come back here to the sixes. And so, but 5 years before that, maybe not. But once
Yeah.
I fell in love with the sixes and cowboying and all that kind of stuff, I just because it's neat because you get to merge that like that cowboy way of life and what do we want the end result to be, and we need to produce good ranch horses. To okay, what's the science behind it, the genetic behind it, what do we need to do to get there and be able to produce that. So
It
so
is the
by the time
perfect
I got
bridge.
started there, yeah.
It just sounds like so many pockets throughout your journey in school were so intentional of to where you are now. So that is so neat. I
Cool.
really appreciate the time so much because I know how busy y'all are right now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you guys for all you guys do.